Welcome to the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your co-host for Indiana Basketball Weekly, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host. First up, 1981 national champion, two-time Big Ten champion, and then, of course, he always likes to brag about the NIT in 1979. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
I'm going to get upstaged today because I think Kitchel's got 3 Big Ten championships.
Yeah, you're going to get big time upstaged, all right? Just say hi.
I'm going to get big time upstaged every way you do. Hi.
All right, and also a more recent member of the Indiana Hoosiers, played last year for IU, won a Big Ten championship, Collin Hartman. How you doing, Collin?
Doing well.
All right, and next we have a two-time All-American, two-time All-Big Ten, 3 Big Ten championships, 1981 national champion, member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, as is Risley. Help me welcome to the show, Ted Kitchel. How you doing, Ted?
I'm doing very good, thanks.
It's great to have somebody on that, has a national championship ring, because Risley always asks the other guests when they disagree with him if they have a national championship ring.
Well,
Risley
and I can both be thankful that we had Isaiah Thomas on our team.
No shit.
Yeah. That's the reason
that never hurts.
That's the reason we have a national championship ring.
How many times have you heard me say, Mike, my claim to fame is that Isaiah Thomas and I combined for 26 points in the national championship game. I got 5 and he got 21.
Your 5 were important, though. I mean,
yeah.
They were.
Yeah, you'd only won by 8 if you wouldn't have had them, Riz.
Steve also played a great game against Illinois late in that year when we played a very good Illinois team, and Steve came in the second half and played fantastic for us, and we were able to get out there with the win, too.
Now, Ted, we didn't bring you on here to make Risley's ego bigger, because as
yeah,
Collin
really
will tell you, it can't get much bigger. Because last night,
there's not a whole lot of room for growth.
Yeah, we ended the IU basketball show by him telling me and Risley that he knows effing more than both of us combined.
No, I did not say that.
Risley said he forgot more basketball than we know.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Did we ever hear that? Did we ever hear that line before, Ted?
That's the old saying Knight used to tell the referees, I've forgotten more basketball than you'll ever know.
Than you'll ever know.
Yeah, but the difference here is Bobby Knight was right.
That's for damn sure.
No doubt.
All right.
Ted, let's mix this up a little bit about what's going on now and how it translates to what you and I went through and what Collin's gone through. What's wrong with this basketball team, Ted? I mean, I've heard you on other radio shows. I know you've got opinions. I've got opinions. Collin has opinions. Mike doesn't count because he never played basketball.
Hey, my opinion is it's Fred Glass in the administration, but nobody ever listens to me.
Ted? What's wrong with this team?
Hold on.
That would be one of my major deals too. I mean, Fred Glass has not done a whole lot of good for the Indiana University, but
he has not.
As far as the team, I mean, if somebody would have told me they would start out 12-2 with victories over Marquette and Louisville and Butler and be 12-2, and they would go 1-11 over the next 12 games, lose 5 games at home. I mean, I don't know if we lost 5 games at home my entire career. You just don't lose on your home court, and I don't know. There's something going on. I mean, they seem to have plenty of talent. When people asked me this summer, "What do you think of the Hoosiers?" I said, "Well, I would be very disappointed if they're not contending for a Big Ten championship." So, obviously, I'm very disappointed. I mean, you've got some great players. Jawan's a good player. I mean, obviously, Romeo's supposedly a good player. They got a good point guard, and they all started out, like a ball of fire. They played great against Marquette. And now they go out there and they look like they've never played the game before. I mean, we have nobody that can shoot the basketball. They don't demand excellence out of each other. I mean, I never see one of them go over and grab another and say, "Hey, what the hell's going on here?" You got to stop that drive. Last night at a key point in the game, they let Carson Edwards. He was 4 for 23, 3 for 23, and they let him split the double team and go right down the middle and get the only shot. He hadn't made a shot all night. but they let him get that shot, and then we don't block out, and the guy tips it in, and we just continue to do things that losing basketball teams do, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. I'm disappointed, in the coaching staff. I mean, they can say what they want to about Tom Crean, I mean, I like Tom as a person. I thought he was a great offensive coach. Defensively, they really struggled under Tom, but his players got better. I mean, you tell me Victor Oladipo didn't get better. Cody Zeller got better. Holes was a better player when he left. I mean, his players got better. And I don't see any of these players, I don't see that they're any better than they were the first game, and maybe not as good as they were that game. So I think it says a lot about the players, what they're doing in practice, and it also says a lot about the coaching staff and what they're not doing.
Yeah, and we talked about this between Collin and I just, like you said, it's almost abysmal that there's been absolutely no improvement in this basketball team whatsoever. I mean, like you said, they're not as good as they were in December. And, if I was somebody like Romeo Langford, who here's a kid who's probably going to go pro or probably leave the team next year, is likely never to play in the NCAA tournament. And I don't think that kid has not improved as a basketball player at all. He still doesn't move well without the basketball. He doesn't work to get open very hard. He takes what he can get. They're figuring out how to guard him because he has not developed a 15 to 20-foot jump shot. Does more of this fall on the coaching staff or the heart and soul of these players?
Well, I would say a lot of it falls on the coaching staff. I mean, you got to put certain players in spots where they can succeed. I mean, I would invert Romeo once in a while and put him down on the block and have him post and throw it down in there where he can score against a guy like Klein or against a guy like Carson Edwards. And if they double team him, he can pass it back out. I mean, he's a good enough passer, but we just continue to put him in that weave. But I'm also very disappointed with Romeo. I mean, if you are a top 10 NBA pick, which they tell me he's 14 right now, I mean, if you're a top pick, you ought to be able to get a shot for yourself at any time. At any time. I don't care if they run a double team at you. I mean, Isaiah Thomas could get a shot whenever he wanted it. Same with Mike Woodson. I mean, two of the greatest players that I ever played with. If you gave them the ball and said, we need a bucket, go one-on-one, get it, they would get you a good shot. Hell, Romeo can't even get shots off. I mean, the people that are telling me he's an NBA talent, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I must be seeing something different than they're seeing. I mean, he got zero shots in the second half last night. In a 48-46 basketball game, he got no shots in the second half. Now, he made a couple free throws and some things like that, but he did not get a shot. I mean, he cannot rise up over people and get shots. I don't get it. I mean, if he's supposed to be such a talent, I mean, in the NBA, hell, I mean, if he thinks the athletes in the Big Ten are good, wait till he gets to playing against those guys. I mean, if he thinks he can drive down the middle and put up those shots he's putting up now, I mean, you'll have centers knocking those into the 10th row. I mean, he's not going to score like that in the NBA. I don't know. It's not the athlete and also his mental approach. I mean, he just doesn't have the real grind to him where, he's just grinding it out. I mean, they just kind of nonchalantly go out and play and hope that something good will happen. And they're just not very demanding of each other.
Ted, do you remember in our day when we were playing, and I kind of addressed this a couple shows ago, that I always said this, that Knight coached the game, but we had Gimbelstaub, we had Waltman, we had Joby Wright, we had Cruz. We had guys on the bench, assistant coaches, that coached the players. Do you remember that? I mean, am I right there? That I remember being in the game. Right. Yeah, and we were in the game, and I was getting yelled at by Wright, Risley, get your ass down on the post, or Risley, go set a screen. And we all had roles and responsibilities on that basketball team. It was, go get Kitchel open or whatever. But I don't see any of that on this basketball team. Do you see any of that? Because I start trying to watch that and saying, I'm looking at this coaching staff, and I don't see a lot of interaction from the coaching staff directed at the players in game situations. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it is. I mean, I think that we had coaches who were interested in coaching and making you better as a player. The assistant coaches that Archie has are recruiters. They're guys that are supposed to go out and get these big-time recruits. So maybe, Bruiser Flint, I mean, he was, I think, under Calipari at one point in time. And Eddie Schilling, he's been under Calipari. So these guys are supposed to be great recruiters. They don't seem to be great coaches as far as being able to get their players to improve and take advantage of the things they need to take advantage of if they're going to be great players. Like I said, our team right now, I mean, we just don't get any better. I mean, we continue to do the same things. We run that weave over and over and over. I heard Archie the other night say he was going to make some major changes. I didn't see major changes last night. I mean, maybe they played a little harder, but I mean, that's disappointing if you're not playing as hard as you should be playing each and every night. So, but I agree with the coaching staff. I think the coaches that we had were really tuned in. I mean, Cruzy was in charge of the guards. Tom Miller was in charge of the big guys. Joby was in charge of big guys. And you would go work with these guys on certain things. I mean, you'd work in the post and you'd work on different things. These guys don't seem to be coaching over there. I mean, I think they're supposed to be great recruiters, but so far they haven't done much as far as making our team better.
Yeah. Anybody else have a question before Collin, you got anything?
Keep going, because I mean it's probably not in the flow of this conversation right now.
Well, no, I mean you can take it a different direction if you want to. Because there are three sides to every story. Right. Because we're kind of attacking the coaches right now a little bit, and I think there's also a player problem here too. And I know that you're more frustrated with the players, Collin, than you are the coaches. What's your side of this deal with the players not having the heart and the mentality they should have?
I don't know. And you guys go away on this, obviously directed towards Ted, but yeah. Did you guys have, and I touched on this a little bit after the Ohio State game, did you guys have guys that really, really, truly understood what it meant to wear the Indiana jersey? Was that a big thing for you guys, or was it just like a personal pride thing? Because with social media and the way the world is now, it's all me, personal type things. And you'd think that even at that level, the guys would play with, more pride. But for me, I kind of grew up in Indiana a little bit, and I understand what Indiana basketball means to the state and to everybody, the fan base and the alumni and everybody that played before me. I don't think that a lot of guys playing basketball now are even aware of what Indiana University and putting that jersey on really means, and how much people would give for one opportunity to wear that for 5 minutes, much less 4 seasons. I took 5 seasons.
I mean, most of the guys that we played with were Indiana guys. So I think the Indiana guys all had a lot of the guys Knight recruited were Indiana guys because they had grown up watching Indiana basketball. They had watched them win Big Ten championships. They'd watched them go to the Final Four with Downing. They'd watched them win the national championship with Scotty May and Buckner in that group, and then we won the national championship in '81. But I mean, we were winning the Big Ten 3 out of every 4 years back then. I mean, they act like it's a big deal winning the Big Ten championship. I mean, back then, I mean, 72 or 3 through 85, I mean, we were winning the Big Ten championship, 3 out of every 4 years. So, I mean, we took a lot of personal pride for sure in it. But, I mean, the first day you stepped on campus, you had a coach who was drilling it into you that it was important. And every practice was important. Every play was important. I mean, he was not my buddy. Bob Knight was not my buddy. He was my coach. And he was there to make me better. He was there to make Indiana better, and he was there to win championships, Big Ten championships, national championships, whatever it might be. When he recruited me, he didn't promise me that I'd ever play a minute, but he did promise me that he'd make me the absolute best player that I could possibly be, and that I would get an education. You know, those two things he promised me. But he didn't promise me any playing time, and he didn't go around and kiss anybody's ass. You know, like I see some of the coaches do today, you know, where they have to, you know, oh, I can't yell at Romeo, or I can't yell at this guy or that guy. I mean, Knight was there to make you better. I mean, Isaiah Thomas came because he wanted somebody to make him the best player he could possibly be. He felt like if he became the best player he could be, that money would find him. And I think he did a pretty good job of figuring out how to play the game, because when he first started playing, he turned the ball over a lot. And, I mean, he was a great talent. I mean, probably the greatest point guard of all time. He turned the ball over a lot. And having, you know, playing for Bob Knight, by the time we got to the end of his sophomore season, he very rarely turned it over. He ran the team. He was the coach on the floor. He knew exactly what Knight wanted, and he was just one of the greatest players that, you know, has ever lived. But, I mean, we had a coach that took tremendous pride in everything that he did, and he expected you to be that same way. And if you didn't bring that enthusiasm and hard work to practice every day, you were going to get called out.
And that's a great point, Ted. And it's a thing that I've said the same thing about it, because when Isaiah walked on the court as a freshman, I mean, I think I was a junior. I think it was, you were a sophomore when he came, because you were on the 79 team.
I was a red shirt.
So when he came in 80. You were what were you then? A sophomore or a redshirt freshman?
I was a redshirt freshman.
Redshirt freshman. I was I think a junior. Isaiah took over that basketball team with leadership on the court. I mean, he yelled at us. And here I'm a junior, been there 3 years, and he's ripping my ass the first practice about being in the right place at the right time, about getting stuff done. And, you know, if you're not paying attention to what he's doing on the court, you were going to get hit in the head with a basketball. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I saw Ray get hit a few times, but
well, that's Ray.
You knew,
God bless Ray.
If you got open and you looked around, there wasn't anybody guarding you. You better be looking for the ball, because it was coming.
It was coming. It was coming.
Yeah, it was coming.
And if you weren't looking, Isaiah would stop the practice and bitch you out right at practice. I mean, Knight didn't have to do it. Isaiah would stop the practice and bitch you out. You know, like, Risley, you got to be looking for the damn ball. Don't cut through the lane and not look for the ball. You know, just stay out of my way there.
He was a great leader.
Yeah.
And his only problem was he turned the ball over a lot. But by the time he was a sophomore in his second season, right before, you know, as he led us to the national championship, he got to where he didn't turn the ball over. He understood what Knight was talking about.
He got smart.
How important each possession was, you know.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, what he did in the NBA, I mean, the same thing. He didn't bitch and moan because he was playing for some horseshit team in Detroit, you know, because they weren't a very good team.
Yeah.
You know, they were a very average team. And all of a sudden, he took these group of guys, and Lambeer was a pretty average player, and Dennis Rodman was a nobody at the time, and Joe Dumars was a very good player, good defensive player. All of a sudden, they win 2 world championships. I mean, he took that team from nobody to win 2 world championships. But, we were very fortunate to get to play with him. But
yeah, we were. Yeah, it was a privilege.
Just as far as the you know, how important it was, I mean, every game when I played at IU was important. I didn't care if it was playing Ball State early in the year, if it was playing Miami of Ohio, if it was playing Purdue, if it was playing Kentucky. I mean, the Purdue game wasn't any more important to me than the Kentucky game or the Iowa game or any other game. Every game was damned important to me, and I sure the hell didn't want to lose, because if I had to deal with him for the next 4 days after I lost, it was no fun. It was a hell of a lot more fun to win the game and at least have him smile once in a while in practice, you know, because it was no fun when you lost, and he made it no fun. And I think that was part of the reason we were successful.
So leadership, because I think my point of view has been that this team does not have a true leader on this basketball team. Is leadership something that's natural, Ted, or is it something that can be developed and taught, and that somebody should have stepped up and trained somebody on this team, or taught somebody, or given somebody the role of leader of this basketball team?
Well, I think it's important that the coach, you know, even though Isaiah was a freshman, you know, Coach Knight, basically made him a captain and made him leader of that team because it's so important. And the same thing with their national championship team in '76. I mean, Buckner was always the leader of that team, always was.
Right.
I mean, the guy, as far as a basketball player, I mean, he was a tremendous athlete who played the game, great defensive player, but he wasn't a great basketball player, but he was a great leader. And I think Knight would tell you that he was one of the greatest leaders he ever coached. And Knight, he made Isaiah the captain and the leader of that team. I think it's important for the coach to point out in front of the team, hey, this is our captain, this is the guy that's leading us, And for every day in practice, he needs to put some of that onus on that player to say, hey, what are we doing here? I mean, if we're practicing bad, you got to get these guys into practicing better and do it, playing harder. But doesn't seem like we have. Sometimes it's difficult for a freshman to step up like Romeo. But I think he's the guy that you got to point out and say, Romeo, you're the guy. Let's go.
And we both know that there are times when Knight and Isaiah had knockdown dragouts outside the locker room where they went out and had at each other because of philosophical differences. That Isaiah stood up to Knight from the first day he got there and never was intimidated by him, as neither were you, which is what I admire so much about you, is that, I saw nobody stared Knight down more times than you did when he would get on you about taking bad shots, and he'd bench you, you go back in. First thing you do is fire a shot. And I'd be sitting on the bench looking at Knight.
I never took a bad shot in my life, Rich.
There you go.
I knew every one I took was going in.
Going in. Exactly. So,
well, I mean, it was tough. It was tough playing for Knight. I mean, it was no joyride playing for him. I mean, he was hard on you in practice. I mean, the games were a luxury. You didn't have to put up with him that much.
We talked about that, yeah.
Sweep the line, and you didn't have to. I mean, practice. You couldn't get away from him. He was in your face all the time. And that's how he wanted it to be. He wanted the game to be a luxury where you were out there relaxed and playing your best. But
I've always said games were vacation. Yeah, games are like a vacation day. Yeah, you got a vacation. We only got a game today. He can't come after me until after the game. I got 40 minutes of not getting ripped on, except at timeouts. So,
yeah, he put a tremendous amount of pressure. And if you were one of the captains and one of the older guys, you got a tremendous amount of pressure. If you were one of the best players on the team, I mean, whether it be Woody, whether it be Isaiah, whether it be Whitman and I, when we were captains the last couple of years, I mean, he put a tremendous amount of pressure on you. People don't get it. I mean, my last year, we were 10-0 and rated number 1 in the country. 10-0, rated number 1 in the country. We had beaten Notre Dame at Notre Dame. We had beaten Kentucky. We had beaten Kansas State. We had beaten a lot of really good teams. We go to Ohio State and lose by 1. And we come home and he throws all of us out, all the seniors, he threw us out of the locker room. And he didn't let us dress in our own locker room. We had to dress in the visitors' locker room all week. We were not allowed to go eat a training table. He would send 6 managers in our place to eat training table. So we had to go to McDonald's or go to Wendy's to eat. And the next 2 games were at Illinois and at Purdue. And right before we got ready to leave for Illinois on Wednesday, he got us together and kind of pulled us back together, and we were able to win those 2 games, and, we were on our way after that. But, I mean, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, we were 10-0, number 1 in the country, and we lose by 1 on the road, and he treats us like we're a team that's never played the game before. So
I'll never forget the week that we were going to play Ohio State. I got the same treatment. I was banished from the team, not allowed to practice. I had to go to the other end and shoot free throws. I wasn't, and then we were going to play, and we needed to beat Ohio State to win the Big Ten championship at Columbus. And I was totally banished from the team. I wasn't allowed to eat training table, wasn't allowed to do anything. And he would just move the team from one end to the other, make me go to the other end and shoot free throws. Couldn't go to study table, couldn't do anything. And then we go to the Ohio State game, and he starts me against Kellogg. And I ended up having one of the better games I've ever had at IU. And we ended up winning the game. And he comes in the locker room and passes me on the bag and says, Risley, I shouldn't have to do that kind of crap to get you to play like that. And that was his whole mentality the whole time. And it's like you just want to say, fuck you, but that's just the way he worked things. So
well, he was making you, he was making you tougher, and he was making, this team does not have any toughness to it. They try hard. I mean, certain guys on the team, Al Durham, I think, tries hard. Fennessy, he started out the year really well. I mean, he's went downhill. I mean, he needs to at least look at the basket once in a while. I mean, Fennessy, the coach should be telling Fennessy, I need 10 shots from you this game. Romeo, I need at least 15 to 20 shots from you this game. I don't care if they're three-pointers. We should be shooting 15 to 25 three-pointers a game. I mean, in today's basketball, you can't just keep pounding it inside. You have got to spread the floor, and you have got to, the reason there's no room for Romeo to drive or for, Morgan to drive is because, we never take any outside shots. We never hit any outside shots. We should be outside the three-point line taking some shots, whether we make them or not. Hell, what's going to happen by taking more shots? What, are we going to end up 1 and 11? I mean, it can't be worse than it has been.
Yeah, Ted, I remember our practices always being such that I think we scrimmaged really 30 to 40 minutes of practice on a 3-hour practice. We never spent much time just playing basketball. It was all fundamental drills, shooting drills for the guards, post defense drills, block out drills, rebounding drills, take the charge drills. We rarely did we just get up and down the court and run. Am I right in remembering that way in practice? There was so little time spent on just playing basketball. It was all getting the fundamental skills down, getting the timing down, getting everybody trusting everybody and doing things like that. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that, and then this time of year, obviously, we'd watch film. You might watch film.
Yeah, the practice would get shorter. Yeah, the practice would definitely get shorter.
Then you would go out on the court and you'd work on what you just watched for 15 minutes, where you wanted to switch screens, where you wanted to do this or that, and then you'd go back in and watch 15 more minutes of film, and then you'd come back in and see what else you wanted to change. So,
what was great too, Ted?
We always worked on fundamentals, and we did a lot of
it's always fundamentals.
A lot of half-court play, whether it be against zones, and
there'd be transition,
where to work 1-3-1 zones. I mean, and there are always certain guys are going to be there to, certain guys are going to be there to score. Certain guys are, role playing was very important in Knight's offense. I mean,
trust me, I know. I went from scoring 27 points a game in high school to scoring 3 points a game at IU. I was told you're not going to be a scorer on this basketball team. Take it or leave it. Sorry.
I found the freshman, if I could get Mike Woodson open, I could play. Because he was the guy.
Yeah, my job was to get Kitchel open.
Even when I was a sophomore, I scored 40 points. I was averaging 9 points a game, and Illinois was so involved in trying to stop Isaiah that I continued to get layups and little jump shots, and they fouled me a lot, and I scored 40 points in a game as a sophomore.
18 for 18? 18 for 18 with the free throw line? Yeah.
But
I remember that game.
That was all because, again, I was screening for Isaiah, and then just, I'd step back or I would roll with the basket, and I just
garbage.
Did a lot of good. But role playing was very important. You had to know your role and understand, who's supposed to get the shots. It didn't always work out that way, but a majority of the time, certain guys were going to score, certain guys were screening, certain guys were rebounding, certain guys, everybody was there to defend. But role playing was very important in Knight's scheme of things.
Yeah. So Collin, now in all fair balance, you've played for Archie Miller, okay, and you played for Tom Crean. Is any of this relevant to what you went through? Are we telling stories that are similar to what you've experienced, or has there been a change in culture at IU since what you just heard from two players who played, in a different era of Indiana basketball?
I was the ultimate role player. That's all I did was be a role player.
But talk about practice. You heard Ted talk about the difficulty of our practices, how hard they were, how intense they were. Is that what you experienced there under Archie and things like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, to be completely candid, the last year that I played, I was hurt a lot. So I mean, I can't really speak to that. They had some hard practices that I wasn't necessarily in all the time just because I was ancient at that point in time. But I mean, I've had some weeks. There was hell weeks and stuff like that where you just absolutely hate your life. And those normally came in the summers and stuff like that, just because they were conscious of our bodies and during the year. But during the summer, it was fair game. They were smart about it, in my opinion, just because we would do a lot of our conditioning on the turf football field when we weren't getting our conditioning in, like on the court. We would take some of it to the field to be easier on guys' knees and stuff like that. But I mean, there were hell weeks. There were weeks that guys were throwing up everywhere, and it was a mental game, and trying to build that mental capacity to, see how far you could push your body. And it was more so for the freshmen, in my opinion, and the younger guys, just to see who was at least going to push their bodies to, the brink, and who was going to really fight through and see if they could do it. It was almost like a weed out type thing. So, yeah, I mean, they were definitely there, that's for sure.
Mike, you've just quiet too long. You've got to have questions. You got to be a question for Ted.
Okay. Ted, was Risley as
Yes,
big
sir.
an asshole as he is today back then? Or has he changed and become one?
Just be honest, Ted. Of course I was. I wasn't like
He is who he is.
Well, I'll say this.
Yeah, exactly.
When you talk about how hard they play, Collin tells us that they practice hard all the time. I think the difference is this. I think that Bob Knight, when he recruited players to fit his system first, and he recruited tough kids. And I just don't know that with this team, and I mean, this is the other thing. It's not all Archie's team. He's had the last 2 years, so they're not all his kids. But I think that you have to recruit that toughness, and you recruit leadership. And when I watched Romeo last year at New Albany, he was a hell of a player. I don't know when I watched him that I saw a vocal leader that was in people. And I know Collin's brought this up before, frustrated because people aren't getting in each other's asses during the games when people are screwing up. So I think the reason Knight won was he got smart outside of Risley, tough outside of Risley players. And that's what he won with. He didn't have to worry about toughness and leadership because he recruited it. You guys were already tough in leaders.
I mean, I was the guy that played football in high school. I played all the way through my senior year. I was a defensive tackle, so I was right in the middle, right over the ball. I was an offensive tight end. I snapped on extra points, and I punted. So I never came off the field. I was on the field all the time. I played football. I was, you get stepped on, you get everything. I mean, but, then when you went to play basketball, I mean, it was nothing compared to, posting up and getting pushed a little bit. There was nothing compared to playing football, and getting undercut and, getting your knees taken out and everything else. So as far as toughness, I think you're right. I mean, he did recruit guys like that were tough and were winners and were used to winning. I mean, that was another thing. He liked guys that understood, that knew how to win and had won championships and things like that. And he definitely recruited. When he came to my house, he talked about Tom Abernathy a lot, as far as you can fill that role. And Abernathy's the guy that kind of came in and filled the role when Greeno, was gone, or Loskowski. He filled that role. Great player for Indiana on their national championship team in '76. But he talked to me a lot about playing like Steve Green and Tom Abernathy and things like that. So he definitely recruited to his system and guys that fit into his system and guys that were, tough, tough guys.
You never mentioned my name, Ted?
Well, you were only a freshman.
I was a freshman. Okay.
Here's another question I have, and I've asked Risley this
But
before.
that's a funny story. Let me say this, because like Ted, I played football too.
I've talked long enough.
but I understand. But I was a quarterback, unfortunately, so I got
he was
caught.
all
I got the
world
red jersey.
too. Probably would have played for the Bears or something.
You had a decent wide receiver, didn't you?
Which one? Ty Dickerson?
Yeah.
He's never brought the great wide receiver up before.
Who was the great wide receiver you're talking about? Sanchez, Dickerson, Kaufman?
Did you ever get? You never got sacked, right?
No, our offensive line averaged 6'4". Yeah, we went 10-0, 9-1, and 9-1 at Lawrence Central.
We
never got touched
in his high school career.
No, I think we set a high school record in the most quarterback or passes attempted by quarterback not getting sacked. I think at one time we held that record for the high school, national high school. So, no, we had J.R. Bishop, who was one of the greatest Bishop Dullahan coaching clinics, quarterback clinics, and he was my high school coach, and I never got touched. And I never played quarterback till I came to high school. And as a sophomore, he said, "You're going to play quarterback." I had never played the position, but I never got touched. So,
is there any film of this that exists, Steve?
Oh yeah, I've got the film. I've got the film
Really?
of Carl beating us 50-48. Herman and I dueling it out in a game. They onside kicked us and won the game on the last play of the game. My dream was like Ted. I wanted to play defensive end, and finally in my senior year, I got to go in for a couple plays and play defensive end. I just wanted to go hit somebody.
Yeah.
But the basketball coach Jerry Petty said, "No way, that's not happening." So, actually, the first coach that ever recruited me in college, period, was Lee Corso. He was the first coach that ever came to me in my high school and talked to me about playing college athletics. It was Lee Corso.
Yeah.
And then when I wanted to go down to IU, I talked to Knight about saying, "Can I try both?" And he said, "I put up with this shit with Buckner. We're not doing it again." No, you can't. You either play basketball or go play football. And that was the end of that. Because Buckner tried it, and it screwed him up early in the season, and Knight got pissed off about it. And there's no way that was ever happening again. But it was just that football mentality of going out and playing tough is what happens, and that's the kind of kids they recruited. So interesting. I didn't know you played football, Ted. I never knew that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my senior year, I broke my right wrist 5 games in, and I got the cast off 2 weeks before the first basketball game. I practiced with the cast on my arm for about the first 3 weeks. Matter of fact, when Wake Forest was in to watch me, they thought that I was left-handed because I gotten to be really a good shooter left-handed because I had a cast on my right hand. And they didn't realize that I was right-handed. But anyway, I got it off with 2 weeks to go, and I was, off and moving on from
now,
there.
Ted, you're from Lewis Cass. You're up there a short distance from Purdue. How did you choose Indiana over Purdue?
Well, I actually
because you had a relative. Didn't one of your cousins or something played it? Wasn't one of your cousins that played at Purdue?
My cousin John, who he and I played.
John Kitchel played at Purdue. Yeah.
He played at Purdue, and was a very good player.
Very good, yeah.
At Purdue, but I'm from a farm background, so everybody expects me to go to Purdue. I went to their basketball camp between my junior and senior year, and I actually got to go over to Mackey Arena at night, which was obviously a recruiting tool, which was against the rules. But at night they would let me go play with their team, and I would play with Eugene Parker and Walter Jordan and Wayne Walls.
Wayne Walls, those guys, yeah.
Yeah, I played with all those guys, and when I came away from there, I just didn't feel like I fit in with that. I kind of wondered who the boss was. I didn't know if Walter was the boss, if Eugene Parker was the boss, if Fred Schaus was the boss. I didn't really know who was in charge. And when Knight started recruiting me, I definitely knew who was in charge of that program.
Yeah. Interesting. Ted, I thought last night's game, and this is kind of my take on last night's game. I think that the team. You agree the team played hard last night? I mean, probably the hardest we've seen them play since maybe Marquette or Louisville. Correct?
Yeah, I thought they played hard.
They played hard. I almost feel that the coaching staff wasn't ready for the kids playing that hard, and I think they gave an effort, but the coaching staff didn't give the effort that the players gave, and that's probably why we lost that game. Is that fair?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why.
Okay.
We lost the game because we missed a block out late. Romeo, missed a free throw late. I mean, you just can't do those things. I mean, they say, well, he hit 9 out of 10 free throws. I understand. He needed to hit 10 out of 10. I mean, if you want to win the game, you put Purdue in a bad situation. They're down 1 with 20 seconds to go. I mean, and then we let them split us, and it's just little mistakes. You cannot make those mistakes, if you expect to win the basketball game. I mean, you practice all week, or hopefully you've practiced all week, and Al Durham did a great job on Carson Edwards. He took things away from him. He made him take bad shots. I thought we didn't do as good a job on Klein as we should have. He's a guy you got to make him put it on the floor. You got to get up into him and make him put it on the floor. Even though he takes some really hard shots, those are the shots he makes. I mean, he's a great shooter, but you have got to be chest up to him and make him drive to the basket. He doesn't want to drive to the basket. And then the other thing is, you got to make Klein play defense. I mean, put Romeo or whoever he's guarding, put him on the block, invert the other guys, throw the ball down into him, and say, okay, you're either going to stop me or we're going to continue to score down here on the block. But the same with Carson Edwards. I mean, who's he going to guard? I mean, the guy's 5'8". I mean, but those are things that Knight would attack. Knight's going to make Klein play defense every time down the floor. He's going to make Carson Edwards play defense. He's probably going to get him in foul trouble, and he'll end up having to sit on the bench. Those are the things that people forget. Knight was always, there were certain guys we tried to attack to get them in foul trouble, to get us to the free throw line. And then the other thing is once you knew that you had 7 fouls on a team, that's when you knew every time. In timeout, they tell you, okay, you're in the bonus. Make sure we drive. Make sure we get to the free throw line. And in most cases, we made more free throws than our opponents attempted, and that was because of the way Knight approached it and the situations he put us in to succeed. All
right. Any of you other guys got questions? Because, I could go on forever because I'm loving this.
No, you can go on forever because you love to talk. It has nothing to do with Ted being here.
Well, no. No. I think Ted and I are on the same page. Go ahead. I have another question, but go ahead. Somebody ask another question.
Go ahead. If it's going to be about the current team, ask it, because I'm tired of talking about the current team. So go ahead, Steve.
All right, let me ask one more question about the current team. I was on Kent Sterling's show the other day, and I know, Ted, you've been on Kent's show a few times too. The first question Kent asked me was, shouldn't a former IU player be coaching this team? I said no. I said, it doesn't matter. I think you just got to find the right coach. If it's a former IU player, fine, but there's no prerequisite that it needs to be a former IU player coaching this team. What are your thoughts on that, Ted?
Well, it doesn't have to be a former IU player if his name is Brad Stevens. I'd be more than happy to have Brad Stevens as our college coach. I doubt that you're going to get him away from the Celtics, but if they decided to go looking for another coach, I would definitely look at Brad Stevens. I think that, Fred Glass has tried to get as far away from Knight and his program and his players as possible. And I think that's the wrong thing to do, too. I think that when you're looking for a coach, the last time Fred Glass told us all in the paper and everything that he was going to talk to former IU players, he was going to interview people. Well, he never talked to Steve Alford. He never interviewed Steve Alford. Whether you like Steve Alford or don't like Steve Alford, you at least should interview him. You should at least interview Dane Fife. He's been with Izzo. He's been in a winning program. He's coached for a long time. You should interview Michael Lewis. You should interview Mike Woodson. You should interview Randy Whitman. Whether they want the job or not, get some feedback from these guys. So who would really be somebody that can take this and really sink their teeth into this job and get it moving in the right direction. But he didn't basically interview anybody. He went over and he hired Archie Miller, and that was the guy who was number one on his list. And he hired him, and so he got what he got. I mean, I think I think he's done a pretty good job. I mean, his defense, they play a lot better defense than Tom's teams did. I mean, but they struggle scoring. I think Archie as a coach needs to encourage his team to shoot the basketball. Yeah. And be positive. Don't look over here at me if you miss a shot. Just keep on shooting. Because at this point in time, what the hell's it going to hurt? I mean, get some confidence and start shooting the basketball. And but otherwise, I mean, it's not just the coach's problem. I mean, it's obviously and you wonder is there a problem in the locker room? I mean, how can Romeo Langford not get a shot in the second half last night? How can that be possible? I mean, that's hard to believe unless somebody's just, on purpose taking the ball away from him every time, or they're not screening for him. I mean, I don't know. Is there something going on that we're not aware of? The players don't get along. They seem to get along with each other, but I don't know. But whatever. Well, it's a struggle watching them play right now.
Yeah, and Collin, is there a problem in the locker room? This is your alley. You were in the locker room. Is there a problem in the locker room with this team?
I don't know. I just don't think at the end of the day that guys are motivated enough. I think, quite candidly, I mean, there were several times when I was watching, Romeo would just stand in the corner, or he would just stand. He has no initiative, and that might be part of the problem is that he's kind of just been giving it to him. He's been having it given to him his whole life. And that's, part of the thing, that's part of the problem is at this level, in this league, you have to earn everything you get, night in and night out. And you can't just stand in the corner or stand on the wing and expect somebody to give you the ball and then everything just, part like the Red Sea and get a bucket. You have to work to open, because guys, especially like Purdue, they will deny you the ball. That's what they were trying to do last night. Deny guys the ball pressure on the wing, blasting through screens, not letting the handoffs happen, not letting the simple, easy one more pass to the wings happen. They were blowing up what we were trying to do, and it's partly because of the stagnant of guys just standing there. And I think that it discouraged Romeo a little bit that he wasn't able to get the ball as easy as he's normally able to get it. And I think that's, at the end of the day, part of the problem. I don't think any guy, back to the original question, I don't think there's a problem in the locker room like guys don't want to give him the ball. I don't think that's the thing. I think that guys want to win. At the end of the day, if Romeo's going to put up 25 to win, then great. But I don't think it's that they're purposely avoiding giving him the ball. I just don't think that he is working hard enough to get it. And I think that when they got punched in the mouth at the very beginning, with guys trying to deny him and everything like that, I don't think he liked the physicality, just quite candidly.
Well, then the coaches need to do a better job of getting him to understand what he needs to do. I mean, you can't just stand over in the corner, Romeo. You got to go get the basketball. I mean, and then a couple of times when they had that, what's his name, Northeastern or something that was guarding him.
Oh, yeah, Easter.
Yeah, he kept bodying him. I mean, Romeo should have just drove right through his left shoulder and make the official call it. He finally called it a couple times late where he was bumping him. But when they played at Purdue, he did the same thing. He just bump him. That's what Matt's told him to do. Get into him. He doesn't like contact. I mean, Romeo ought to drive it right into his left shoulder, knock him down. They're going to call a foul. I mean, you're in Bloomington. I mean, you ought to get the call there anyway. But the coaches are doing a poor job if they're allowing him to stand in the corner and not understand that he's an important part of our offense and he needs to kick it into gear.
Well, and
that's the one thing. That's the one that
I've never seen anybody get on Romeo. You don't see him pulled out of a game. If Demazi Anderson misses a shot, he gets pulled right away. And now he went from a kid that could shoot threes all day, and that's why I recruited him, to a kid that can't even touch the rim when he shoots the damn ball. So my question is still this, and I know that everybody shot me down a week or two ago when I said it, but once this team is eliminated from being able to make the tournament, which they're close to, shouldn't we just play guys that are going to be here next year?
My feeling as a player was the best players should play. Whoever the best players are in practice should play. I don't care if it's the first week, if you're playing for a national championship. Whoever the best players in practice are, they should be playing. I mean, if somebody's playing their best, then they ought to get playing time. So,
well, that's how it was, Ted, in our era. I mean, that's how it was.
Well, I think it's how it is here too, and I think he's one of the best 5 players in practice.
Yeah.
But, I mean, does it really matter how great he plays in practice if he doesn't get it done in a game or if he's just standing in a corner? I mean, he doesn't like physicality. I know when we talked about him last year, Steve, when he lost that tournament game, that was the thing that worried me. He's quiet. He didn't really show a lot of leadership, and I just don't know. I don't understand why he was standing in the corner and we didn't see Miller jump his ass. He jumps other people's asses.
What 5 guys are you going to play? I haven't seen anybody that's playing good.
Al Durham. I think Al Durham plays his ass off, though.
I think Al Durham gets to play. Fennessy's not played well. I mean, hell, he won't even look at the basket.
No. I don't even know if
he's Fennessy healthy, though? Is Fennessy healthy? Do we think he's healthy?
He got a concussion.
He looks like
he's going to fall.
Shooter, but he never looks to shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, Duran was probably the best player inside we had last night.
Yeah.
But he can only play so many minutes with, between his ankle and his Achilles, and he just doesn't seem to be in shape the way he needs to be. But I don't think we got a lot to pick from. The big St. Mary's transfer, I mean, he came out against Marquette and set the world on fire, and I thought, wow, this guy's going to be great.
Good find.
And hell, he hadn't hit a 3-pointer since.
He made one.
I mean, he
made one.
He hadn't made a shot.
Made one.
He's made one.
Did he play yesterday? I don't think he played yesterday, did he?
I don't think he did.
I don't think he even played yesterday.
I mean, he has to understand, the only reason you're in the game is to get open and shoot and knock down shots. If you can't do that, we can't play you. So obviously they didn't play him last night.
Well, now, Ted, that wasn't the case for me. If I took a shot, I was coming out. So it wasn't my responsibility on that basketball team, role playing. It was not to shoot the ball. When I took a shot, I looked at the bench immediately and say, am I coming out or am I okay?
Well, I mean, you had to understand, your role. I mean, if when you played for Knight, a good shot was one that went in and a bad shot was one that didn't. So if you missed it, he was going to tell you why it was a bad shot and you didn't have your feet set and the people were up on you. You should have shot fake.
He was going to coach you.
He was
going to coach you on the spot.
If you made it, he's going to say, see how you squared up that time? You got your feet and you were in rhythm and you made the shot. So
film was always funny with Knight. Yeah.
I would always tell the young guys, I said, just get used to it. A good shot is one that goes in, and a bad shot's one that doesn't. That's the way it is. Just get used to it.
Ted, you made some. I've listened to a couple of your radio interviews. I know you were down with the guys in Evansville who actually broadcast their stuff on our website too, and you talked it on Sterling. You've made it pretty obvious you don't think this team feels bad about losing. You want to address that? Your thoughts on that on our show? I mean, you made it pretty clear. You don't think they feel bad about losing?
My only point was it wasn't that I enjoyed winning so much, but I hated losing. And part of the reason I hated losing was because I had to deal with, but we had to deal with him. I mean, people can say what they want to about how tough these coaches are on them. They have no idea.
You're right. They don't.
How tough. They have no idea how tough the coach was on you mentally and physically when you got beat. So you would tell the young guys when they came in as freshmen, hey, guys, win the game. Win the game. Even if it's ugly and you win, it's going to be a lot less painful than if you lose. So learn to win the game. Find a way, do what you have to win the basketball game. And I think that had a lot to do with Knight teaching us how to win. I mean, I think you need to know how to win. I mean, it's, isn't it funny how certain guys win games all the time? Tom Brady, he's a great quarterback. He's a winner. I mean, he knows how to win. He expects himself to come through in those big situations. He demands excellence out of himself, and he demands excellence out of the players around him. I mean, how often on this team do you see somebody go up and grab the other player by the shirt and say, come on, we need a bucket here. Get down on the block and let me, Morgan, get down on the block, get the ball, and either get fouled or get us a bucket. We need a bucket right now. You don't see anybody do that. I mean, Buckner would do that. Buckner would grab a hold of you and tell you exactly what the hell he thought of you and your how you were playing. And, I mean, when I had to play with Uwe his first couple of years, he wasn't very good. And, I mean, but he got a lot better and ended up being a very, very good player. But you just have to demand more out of each other. I mean, I'm not just saying one guy yelling at everybody else. I mean, obviously Knight's going to yell at all of you, but you've got to demand each other in practice. Whatever. I mean, if I was running practice, whoever was guarding Romeo, I would have them hacking him and fouling him and frustrating him until he wanted to fight. I would have a guy just hammering on him all day, get in his face and whack his arm and foul him and get him used to playing against somebody because that's how it is. You play in the NBA, they're going to be in his jock. I mean, if he thinks he's going to be able to play with that nonchalant attitude that he has right now, there's no chance. I mean, and that's the same way. I mean, when you guys, the second team in 81, played against us every day in practice, you took our cuts away. You knew what we were trying to run. You screwed us up. You made it hard as hell. You get us in trouble because we weren't running the offense, and you guys thought it was funny. Well, yeah, it was funny to you guys. It wasn't very funny to the rest of us who were getting yelled at.
And Knight would always stick me on Turner. Knight would always, because Landon Turner is kind of the same thing as Uwe. The first 2 years of Landon was a struggle, and Knight would always say, Risley, you got Turner. And Knight would just say, hack the crap out of him, foul him, get him to swing at you.
Hack him.
Get him pissed off.
Tough.
I mean, get him kicked out of practice.
I always remember one of the great lines I ever heard was Roy Bates. Obviously, you know who Coach Bates was.
Coach Bates was great.
He was an old coach
Bates
who would
great.
come over from Ohio. Was a good friend of Coach Knight. When Isaiah was in the pros, when Isaiah was playing for Detroit, Isaiah called Coach Bates, and he said, we're struggling. We're not playing very well. And Coach Bates asked him real quietly, he says, do your players ever get in fights in practice? And Isaiah
every day.
No. Isaiah said, no, not really. And Coach Bates told him it might be in your best interest to start a few. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, the second team down there at IU, they should be hacking that first team and frustrating them and you just making it so difficult for them to score or do anything. But instead, I can't imagine that happens in practice. They say they play well in practice. Well, the second team probably backs off and lets them, makes them look good. They want everybody to look good, but it's not making them any better.
I remember that night you bring it up so much, how hard the white team just wanted to kick your ass. We revel in the fact that we could screw you up and get you yelled at. When you guys were out there, we lived for that. And we would high five ourselves behind the back and say, "Yeah, we got them. Sure. They're going to get ripped."
You and Ice and Gunner and Chuck Franz and the whole group.
Yeah, all of us were there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And that's what made us
good. We had no personal animosity towards you guys. It's like we knew it was our role. It was our job. It's what we had to do. And like I said, your ring looks like my ring, looks like Isaiah's ring, looks like Whitman's ring. In Tolbert's ring, in Turner's ring, they all look the same. So we all got a ring. They look identical, except the names are different on them. And we took that as a great pride, though, that we worked hard to make our starting five so damn good that it was going to benefit the entire team. And you're right, Ted. I don't see that in this team right now. And I'm not seeing Archie's practices.
If I went down to practice and he wanted me to do something, I'd say, let me have the second team. Let's scrimmage.
That's what I'd say too. I said that.
And I would be on them to just, get in their face, hack them. I want them ready to fight. I want them so frustrated that they're ready to fight. Because right now I don't see a team that's ready to fight for anything. They just go out and kind of like, well, I hope we play well and maybe we'll win, But, they're not willing to grind it out and just get on the floor and get on the board and do the things they need to do to win games. They want it to be pretty, and they just don't have the type of players. We don't shoot the ball well enough to make it pretty.
Agreed. Mike, you had another question? Because I got one more question for Ted, but you go ahead and ask.
What's yours about?
Because mine's the final question.
Oh, it is? So you get the final question, even though you got every other question. All right. My question is this, and I've asked Steve this before. He played on a really good Lawrence Central team that got beat by Aurora High School.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Who had like a bunch of 4-foot pygmies playing on them. And they beat Risley. And, Risley, the funny thing about it was, Risley, when we first met, posted a message on there about the game and how he scored 43 points. And one of the guys that guarded him comes back, well, I just looked it up, and you only had 23. I just wanted to bring that up because I like to.
I mistyped it 4 for 2. I'm sorry. Jesus Christ.
Oh,
you talked for an hour.
You didn't mistype anything.
Quiet. You didn't mistype anything. All right. So my question to Steve was always, if you would have won a state championship with Lawrence Central, would that have been a bigger deal than winning a state championship? And I think a lot of people who are under the age of probably 40 anymore don't understand this question. But I know when you played high school basketball, your senior year, you guys won the sectional. It was the first time that you guys had won a basketball sectional. And I just thought maybe you could talk.
Most important victory of my life.
Yeah, and Steve missed out on that because he lost to Aurora High School. But go ahead and talk to us a little bit about what high school basketball meant.
Wait, stop. We won the Hinkle sectional 2 years in a row.
You lost the semi-state.
Ted never got to play in the Hinkle sectional. The Hinkle sectional was the most vaulted sectional of all time.
Hey, Steve.
Woody, I had to play against Woody. 2 years in a row, I had to guard Woody and shut him down.
Okay, hey,
which
real
we
quick,
were able to do.
Collin Hartman, are you still there? Colin?
Yeah, I'm here.
Would you verify that I asked Ted this question and not Steve? And Steve asked me?
All right, well, I still verify.
Okay.
Okay,
so go ahead. Just ignore Steve. We do.
I'll shut up.
Lewis Cast had been in existence for about 15 years when I was a senior. We had never won the sectional. Obviously, Logansport. It was the Logansport sectional. This is before classes. So Logansport, Peru, Kyle Macy, that group, they were the best teams usually. So when we won the sectional, we were 20-0 through the regular season. The closest anybody had come to us was, I think, 12 or 13 points. Then we won the sectional. We went to the Marion Regional, beat Huntington by 35, and then we had to play Marion at Marion, and we got beat in double overtime because we got screwed. Basically, Marion wasn't going to allow some little cow town from Galveston and Walton, Indiana, win that game. So, we got some really screwy calls at the end of the game. We ended up losing in double overtime. But I always say this, as far as how class basketball and our back then when we only had one class, I would rather get screwed and get beat by Marion at Marion in double overtime than to win a 2A state championship that would mean absolutely nothing to me because they tell me I'm not good enough to play against the big boys.
Yeah, and what I always bring up to people is I remember, and I this is the thing, I live in Aurora, Indiana, so I lived through this. I was in like 3rd or 4th grade when Risley got destroyed by a school of 600 kids with his 5,000 kids. But the thing I remember was the people that did, almost the entire town went to that semi-state. They went to that regional. The ones that didn't actually went into downtown Aurora, and they actually played the game over the loudspeakers through the town. I mean, it meant everything back then. And the reason I tied this in.
It meant everything. It meant everything to our community. When we, the year we won that sectional in '78, that was the coal strike year. And so there was a week between. There was a week off between the sectional and the regional, and so you were able to play a game. And we got to play at Market Square. And in the first game, Ben Davis, Whitman, and that group, they played Fort Wayne North, who was number 1 in the state. And then we played Bloomington South, who I think was number 3 in the state. And I think they had about 7,000 fans there that day, and 6,000 of them were our fans.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how important it was to our little community, to win that sectional, to be, 23-0 through the sectional. It was a huge, huge deal. And I always say, that was the most important victory of my life. I mean, winning the sectional was more important to me than winning the national championship because it meant so much to so many people, in that community. And you being from Aurora, a smaller town, you would understand that. And that's, I hate what they've done to the class basketball thing. I think it's so meaningless.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a sectional. I went to the last sectional game that was played at South Dearborn in 1997. Place was packed. I go a couple years later to a sectional game in Greensburg, and there's like 500 people there, and there was no atmosphere, and it was just sad. And I haven't been back since. And the thing that I equate this to is this. The Bob Knight stuff happens into the 90s. The last class basketball was 97 or 98, or you know what I mean. So when you come back to this, I mean, I still think a lot of that toughness is gone because the importance is gone on Indiana high school basketball, Steve.
No doubt. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with Ted.
Guys.
Yeah.
No.
We're good. He did.
We're good. I'm here.
I was just saying how it was so important for a small community. It was the most important game I ever won. I mean, more important than national championship because it meant so much to so many people.
Yeah.
And
we heard it. We got that. We heard it.
Okay. Yeah. And my thing is this.
Yeah, we heard all that. Yeah.
And as I just told Steve, I think you've lost a lot of that toughness because of that. Because it meant everything.
I think so too.
Yeah, and up through the 90s. I mean, I remember you go out, you can find a basketball game anywhere where there was a hoop, there'd be 30 people playing. Nowadays, you drive past all those places, and you never see anybody playing basketball anymore. And,
yeah, we used to go to Ben Davis, in the summer, go over to Ben Davis on the outdoor courts. I'd play with Tommy Warner and Todd Licklider and Witt. And
I played with all those guys, yeah. I played on the summer team with those guys.
All those, Witt had all of his teammates.
Rick Mack, and all those guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Where's Joe Brunk? Joe Brunk was there, probably. Joe Brunk.
Exactly. Played with Joe and
all those guys. Yeah, we always go do that.
So,
but yeah, anyway. I mean, for me, the sectionals were, to have the privilege of playing in Hinkle, which is, like I said, the most storied sectional, and like I said, I had to play against Landon. I had to play against Antonio Martin. I had to play against Woody, Don Cox. I mean, guys were going to be my future teammates. And to win it the sectional twice, those are the happiest times in my basketball career. I don't know, because we didn't end up winning it all, that sits above winning a national championship. But I know that's the happiest I ever was going to Hinkle, and Hinkle was sold out for the championship game of the Hinkle section. I mean, that place holds 16,000, 17,000 people, and it would be sold out. And you would have Hilliard Gates there calling the game. Chuck Marlowe would be there somewhere. And it's such a sad thing that they've taken that away from the experience of playing basketball today. So, anyway, high school basketball. Good points.
Yeah, it was great. So, anyway, I need to get going.
Yeah, so do we. It's hard to get Steve to stop, though. But we want to thank you for coming on, Ted.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Keep my number, and if there's anything I can do for you, let me know.
All right. Thanks a lot,
You want to be on again tomorrow, Ted?
Why don't you just call Ted and you guys do your own show all day?
Let's see. Oh, forget it. He's had enough of me.
All right. I'm going to go watch the Duke. I'm going to go watch the Duke.
Yeah, I know. Duke is getting ready to play. Come on. It's maybe already on.
All right.
Yeah, I think
Thanks a
it's
lot,
on.
Ted.
So, all right. Talk to you. Bye.
All right. Any final words, Collin?
Hold on. No, I'm good. Steve and Ted just good. It was good.
Steve?
I'm good.
I think it was a treat. I think that, I said Ted speaks from the heart. He tells it like it is. And, I've always admired about it. He's a tough-nosed kid. He always has been. I've always looked up to him as a not just a teammate, but kind of a hero of mine because of the way he plays the game and what he brings to the game and the way he thinks the game. And he made some very good points. So, fun show. Hopefully it plays well in Peoria.
All right, guys. When's IU play again, Collin? Is that Saturday or Friday?
Not exactly
Hang
sure.
on, I'll look it up here real quick. I know. Here, I got it right here. Hang on. Let me pull the schedule up. Give me 3, 2, 1. No, I don't want cookies. I do not allow people on cookies on my computer anymore. That's done with.
Thanks for reading that to us.
They play Friday at 9 p.m. So we'll do a show if we want to post-game if Collin doesn't have to go to bed.
Well, we could either go post-game or we could go to next day, whatever you guys want to do.
Whatever you guys want to do. It doesn't matter to me.
Call it, Collin.
Your call, Collin. You're the one that, it's only 6 o'clock to me, so it's not a late game to me.
Wait, it's this Friday?
Yeah, at 9.
Friday the
so
22nd
like
at 9 p.m.
Yeah, it's going to have to be Saturday.
Collin's
Okay,
got
no
stuff
problem.
to do.
He has a girlfriend.
Oh, stop. That's true. But
It's true.
one of my buddies is opening up a restaurant, and he's doing a soft opening, so I'll be
Well, that's fine. Let's just plan on Mike set a time for Saturday. We'll do one Saturday morning or something like that.
Saturday morning.
And we'll do a post-game then.
I don't know. You want to do Saturday at noon?
Saturday.
You be
Collin,
awake
it's your
by then,
call.
Collin?
That's fine
Yeah.
with me. Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right, we'll go
Noon
Saturday.
Eastern time.
Yeah, we'll go Saturday at noon. Cole Hanna will be back with us, our IU beat reporter. Make sure you go to iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, every place you can find us. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a comment. If you have any feedback or you want to address anything, ask any question of any of us, feel free to go ahead and tweet that out. You can follow Steve Risley at srisley34. You can follow Collin Hartman at Collin Hartman 30. You can follow Cole Hanna at Cole Hanna 5, and you can follow me at Grueling Truth, and I have more followers than all of them put together. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. And I want to remind everybody, Saturday, noon, IU Iowa postgame show. Hopefully IU won, and then we can, talk about our chances for the NCAA tournament again. All right, guys, remember you can hear everything we do on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, anywhere you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Ted Kitchel, Collin Hartman, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.